This is Trevor, and this is TransRam ADV. So this project, I guess, started 7 years ago when my wife calls me and says she bought a van. The van sounded cool at first. It was a 1979 Sportsman, I think a 200 or a 300, and it ran and drove her from somewhere in Colorado or Wyoming all the way back down here to Denver. And then we parked it, and it sat and sat. And then we moved back to the States from Guam to Florida, and we made the decision to tow the van to Florida and get it fixed up. So we hooked it up to the Dodge and towed it all the way to Florida in the middle of winter, which was a lot of fun. And then it sat on that trailer for another 4 years. And then I left active duty and we moved to Denver, and it's been sitting on that same trailer since 2022. And now we got some big plans for it, and I hope to bring you guys along with that. So our plans is to take a Ram 3500 that already has a flatbed on it, take the shell off the back of the van and put that shell on the Ram to make a overlanding full drive expedition vehicle that's capable of going almost anywhere. A little bit of background on my wife and I. We are very outdoorsy, adventurous. My wife, she was a member of the off-road club in college. She has a really amazing XJ. It's all tubed out, sitting on coilovers and 1-tons. And we love doing that off-road route. And then when I came into the picture, we got married, hit my last duty station, and had this dream of world travel. I guess it became my dream too, but it was Stephanie's dream from when she was like 7 years old. I mean, her documents of planning this thing out started, probably 7th grade. She'll impose the actual time when she started planning that when she edits. But kind of fell in on that, and as we're trying to decide of, hey, do I finish out 20 years or do I get out, we kind of had that itch to have kids. We were both getting a little older. We knew the older we get, the harder it is to not only have a child, but to keep up with them. So I left active duty at I think 12 and a half years as an E7, and we kind of hit the road. We traveled around the world, and it was a good time to kind of get my mind straight, kind of decompress from the military. And one of our stops was in New Zealand, where we bought a van and just traveled wherever we wanted and did whatever we wanted. And it was one of the best times of my life, and we want to kind of copy what we did there, but all over the US. We got goals of going to the North Slope of Alaska, trying to hit all the national parks. And on top of that, we now have a 2-year-old, and we have a baby on the way that should be due in the next 2 weeks. So we're excited about that. We're looking at what's next, and I think for us it's going to be a lot of travel and homeschooling and trying to make this our life. So I told you about the van, 1978, 1979 Dodge Sportsman. Basically, it's a construction van that they cut the back half off and put on new frame rails, and then just wood glue and popsicle sticks the floor on, and then the fiberglass body. It's not in great shape. The exhaust is all rusted out. The frame is pretty rusty. All the suspension's pretty much destroyed. I did give it the old college try to get it running. I put EFI Live on it, or whatever the Holly version is. Got it running a little bit, but then we just kind of went down the route of, okay, what does it take? And we ultimately ended up on this thing only has about 16 inches of ground clearance, and it's two-wheel drive, and it's the size of a bus. So we quickly backed out of that, and it sat, like I said. And then the Dodge, it was my daily driver for years, and when we moved up here to Denver, I put new injectors in it, and then we left on the world trip, and when we got back, we drove it for about 20 miles and started to get a loud tick in the top end. There's no blow-by or anything like that, so I'm not expecting a full rebuild, but hopefully it is the number 6 injector solenoid that's either stuck open or stuck closed. Worst case on that, I think it might be a valve seat, or some sort of bushing or something in there that's bouncing around. I don't think anything's melted through yet. It only ran with the tick for maybe 2 minutes before my wife could pull over and call a tow truck. So with that, let's go out there and do a tour of these things. We'll start with the van exterior, and then we'll go inside on that, and we'll do the same thing on the truck, just to let you guys know where we're kind of kicking off from. Alright guys, so here is the van and the truck. Let's give you guys a quick rundown of the van. So it's not in that bad a shape body-wise. There's no rust or anything on the body, but underneath it's just kind of everywhere. You can tell it's definitely been in states that are rusty. So the suspension components are pretty well seized together. Bushings are shrinking. On the surface it's not that bad, but just everywhere you go in this thing to work is just a bucket of rust. And as you can see, that's not a lot of clearance. We put my hand in there, we're looking at maybe 1.25 hands. So that's going to hit every rock you can possibly find. But this is what we want to keep. We want to keep the back end of this thing. It's in really good shape. There's an inside wall and an outside wall that's going to be perfect for spray foam. It'll give us about 3 inches of spray foam all the way around this thing. Used to have a spare tire here. We're going to have to get rid of this bumper. The winter trip from Denver to Florida that I was telling you about, this is what happens when you drive through an ice storm in the middle of January through North Texas. So I smashed this in when a hotshot trucker rear-ended me on the trailer. Luckily that's the only damage, and I think we should be able to fiberglass and gel coat that up pretty good. So we're going to end up cutting this bumper off, kind of level with the back, and then we'll kind of raise this up in the back too, but we'll talk about that more as we go. See if we could get a good view back here. So it's got a normal door on the back. Nothing special. Typical lights and everything on the back. Give you guys a quick view over here. You can tell it's been sitting here a while. The tree growing into it, so that's great. But again, another view under here. I'm hoping that these bolts, they go all the way down the outside of both frame rails, and then these are welded on to the base of the camper. It looks like about 16 gauge steel with 3/4 inch plywood on top of it. So hopefully I can get those cut off without lighting this thing on fire. It'd be nice. Alright, well, let's go inside. Alright, so now we're inside. This is the cockpit area. It's got a nice CB radio so you can talk to other car beds. It had issues with the steering wheel. You turn right all the way and the horn goes off, so that had to be fixed. Yeah, it's not in bad shape. It's just old and probably should have been in the junkyard way before we bought it. On the passenger side in the back, we have a nice little dinette. And then we definitely put the cart before the horse, and we put in solar charge converter, a inverter, and all the fusing and stuff to be able to run solar, and also built a nice little battery box down here. And then we found out that we didn't want to get it going. On this side we got a bed / couch that folds out. Some nice windows, and in the back we got a bunch of random trash. A 2-burner propane stove. There's a sink under there with a hand pump faucet. The coolest little window ever. A little spice rack that if you put anything in there, everything falls to the abyss. A little cabinet and a dresser, and then the big issue we have in here is the roof. Come on, focus, there we go. It's the roof that got some water damage. So if you look on the top side of this thing, there's probably a 4x8 sheet of galvanized steel, and it's glued on there with some sort of RV roof silicone or self-leveling sealant. So we need to cut that off, build some way to kind of support this with stanchions going down, and then coming off this side we'll do the same thing here all the way over down, because at some point we're going to want to put a rooftop tent on the top of this so parents can sleep up top, kids can sleep down below. We'll have a way to cook, outdoor kitchen, a fridge, enough solar to stay off grid for as long as we can, and hopefully enough solar or battery banks to keep the block heater going for those cold Alaska nights. Alright, so that's the interior and kind of a scope of what's going on in here. Let's go back and look at the truck. Hey guys, so this is the 2004 and a half Dodge 3500 with 5.9 Cummins. It's in very good shape for its year. Done a lot of work on it throughout the years. It's got a Carly ball joints on it, 2009 steering linkage, Bilstein shocks. Just some cheap aftermarket wheels that I found on Facebook Marketplace to get rid of the dualies. Almost brand new Baja Legends from Mickey Thompson, Mickey Thompson. It's got Firestone airbags, posi lock, I think 32 or 35 gallons of diesel, and I built this flatbed, which kind of can't really see right now, but that's in good shape. It's not rusting, it's solid. Let's go around. Don't mind the radiators, that's for my business. So, a little better view of the flatbed. We got a sump pickup for the fuel, fast fuel system, power stop brakes. I think that's everything in the back. Let's go to the inside. Inside is in great shape. I think the only thing interior-wise that we're gonna have to fix is the window tinting on this window, starting to not really bubble, but like a almost orange peel. So we gotta get rid of that. It does have the 6-speed MV 5600. So we got a pack brake, exhaust brake on there. All manual controls for transfer case, obviously manual transmission. And then we got an edge tuner, which at some point we'll probably pull that off. And yeah, I think the motor is sitting at 260,000 miles. So not bad for a diesel. Alright, so looking at the engine, we got a few aftermarket things going on here. We do have a aftermarket air filter. We got 50 over injectors from Industrial Injection. We got rid of the grid heater, obviously the air compressor for the pack brake, and all this stuff for the tuner, EGT, all that stuff's kind of floating around up in here. So in here we're definitely going to have to take a lot of this out and clean it. I noticed the other day that the turbo, the intercooler piping on the intake side has been left open for years. So hopefully there's nothing living in there that we're going to have to get, but we'll go ahead and take all those tubes off and kind of feel around, make sure there's nothing in there. We're gonna have to take off probably the top end and see what's going on there, and then we're gonna move the compressor back into the back out of the engine bay, because I think this thing's already shot. It probably only has 4 years on it. So we'll get that out of the engine bay, get the temperature down on it and all that stuff. And then our first project is going to be clean up all of the electrical, and we're also going to replace every cable for the charging system. Everything from the alternator wire to the battery, the crossover, all the grounds. We'll clean up all the ground locations and make sure they meter well on the fluke. And then just a general cleaning before we get to pulling the valve cover and possibly pulling the head. But all in all, the truck's in great shape. So even if we do need to replace the entire top end with like a fleece unit, we're only looking at a few $1,000s, and it's a common rail Cummins that I trust more than a new 6.7 with with death and all that stuff, and I don't really want to deal with that. So I'd like to be kind of pre-emissions and all that stuff. Only thing I gotta worry about is finding a cat, which could be hard in a carb state. I don't know if Colorado has the same laws as California where you can't buy a used one, but we will try our best to find a downpipe and a cat. We need a downpipe because I think we have a 5-inch downpipe in there right now. So we need to go back to stock all the way to the cat and then bring it back up to 5 inches after the cat. Yeah, so that's a pretty big exhaust. Oh, I also have a 1-piece aluminum drive shaft in here, which is going to help out a lot. Alright guys, so the first thing we're going to do is totally forget about the van. Because honestly, if the truck doesn't run, why work on the van? So there's a few things we need to do to the truck before we even try to start it. And there's a few things that need to be done, or investigations that need to be done to figure out why I'm not driving it every day. So let's just start with kind of where we're at now, and let's go with truck plan of action. So first thing we should do is the charging system. Now, I've already started looking at the charging system, and I've had problems with it before. A lot of the wires, I think maybe a battery exploded at some point. So there is corrosion going down into the wires. None of the terminal ends that go on the battery clamp very well, so I have taken the bolts out, filed down the lead, and clamped it down on there best I could. But to be honest, when I pulled out the batteries to test them yesterday, all but one I was able to pull off by hand without even loosening the bolt. So I know that's not a very good connection, and they were very corroded, which means that the seal around the post wasn't great, and definitely getting some humidity in there and whatnot. So with the charging system, we are going to remove all the old wires. And that's going to be everything that comes off the battery. So the crossover, that's a big 1/0 that goes from the passenger side to the driver's side. We're going to replace the alternator wire with a new one built with a fusible link that's going to be able to handle a high output alternator at some point. We're going to switch out all the grounds. We're going to clean up to bare metal to every ground on the chassis, the frame, and all that. And then all the auxiliary power wires going to the starter, going to the fuse box and all that stuff. We're going to remove and replace all those, and we're going to go up in a size on all the power wires and most of the grounds too. So we're going to go from a 1/0 as a crossover to a 2/0 and kind of keep that theme on everything, and just make sure everything is marine grade. All the terminal ends are going to be tinned, and switching out the terminals to a military style clamp on, which in the next video we'll be doing this, so I'll go through all the parts on that, kind of my way of thinking on that. And then we're also going to probably end up replacing the batteries. I didn't really want to do this because I bought them right before I parked it and didn't get any miles on them, but I did charge them up yesterday and they're sitting at 13.1 volts, which, or I'm sorry, 12.1 volts, which is, if you go by the letter of the law, that's not right. You need 12.6 to 12.8, just in a static environment. So maybe we'll try to start it with those, but at some point those will need to be replaced. So let's just go ahead and add those to the list. Alright, next thing, we talked about it before, the compressor removal. So the reason I want to get rid of the compressor under there is it is a diesel, it vibrates a lot. That thing was mounted straight onto the intake cover, so every time that engine starts or powers up or you give it a little bit of gas, a 5.9 Cummins shakes a lot, and it's hot under there. So shaking and heat is going to kill a compressor, and as of right now the pack brake isn't working. So I think one of our problems with that is the compressor not working, and it might be that the butterfly valve inside that exhaust brake is seized. So at some point we'll need to tear into that and figure out what's going on, but for right now I just want to get those relays out of there. I want to get the compressor out of there. I want to get all the extra wiring that's under the hood just out of there, so we can have a clean slate for all the other stuff that we want to do in the future. So with that, it's just component removal, and we'll box that up to see what's good and what we can reuse in the future. Alright, so next we got the top end investigation, which is the kind of the big unknown with this truck. So top end investigation. Investigation could go very easily, or it could go south pretty fast. Like I said earlier, I believe it's the number 5 or number 6 solenoid stuck open. I would like to be able to put a mechanic stethoscope on it and be able to hear it, but again, 5.9 is just so loud that you can't really tell where it's coming from. So that's kind of the best case, because I do want to go back to stock on these injectors. I think they're 50 over right now, and I did all this before I found out that Colorado is a carb state. So the cat's cut off. I did that in Florida, and the injectors were replaced before I tried to register it. So maybe I'll try just sending those off and getting them tested. If they're all good, then I'll throw a cat on there and see if I can pass emissions. A lot of people say that it's not that difficult with 50 over, but we will definitely be able to see. Well, maybe the tuner will be able to tune it down enough to be able to pass. So with that, there's a lot of things that are going to go into this. First thing I want to do is do a injector kill test. And what that's going to do is be able to kill one injector at a time and see if that sound goes away when you cut off number 6, cut off number 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and so on. And that'll tell us exactly what's going on and if it is the injectors or not. And then after that, I want to remove the injectors. And scope bores. What that's going to do is basically tell us if there is something rattling around in that cylinder. Maybe some trash got in there, a screw got in there. We don't got the killer grid heater like the 6.7, so I'm not really expecting that. But like I said, I did have this thing torn apart in the backyard, and something might have wiggled loose, got in there, something like that. So I want to scope the bore, see what the top of the pistons look like, see if we can get a good view of the walls, and if we can rotate that bore scope upwards, get a good look at the valves. Then after that, we will ohm test all the injector wires. So, ohm test all the injector wires. So there's a harness. It's it's what connects the ECU to the injectors. There's I think 3 wire connectors on the outside, and then they all split on the inside, and trace some injection molded wires inside this piece of plastic. It's not common for these things to go bad, but if it does go bad, it's going to cause the injectors to do some crazy stuff, especially if it's cutting to ground or anything like that. So we'll go ahead and test that, and then we will replace the valve cover gasket, because I am getting a little bit of oil coming out of that. Probably should have done that years ago. And then we got the intercooler. Make sure I spell this right for you guys. And you guys seen it on the video earlier that the intercooler boot coming off of the intake is off, and I have no idea how long that's been off. I don't know if I did it once it was towed from San Diego to here, or if it was the shop that I took it to that did absolutely nothing for me. If they forgot to install it and then it towed all the way across the country and then sat like that. So I want to be able to take that off, probably take it all the way back off to the intake, and then all the way to the turbo, and just kind of clean everything up, vacuum it out, wipe it all out, make sure there's no rodents or trash living in there before we start it up and send it through the engine. And then when I did the injectors, I also replaced the fuel line. I replaced the fuel line with fast blue stuff because it was cracking, and I noticed that the new stuff's already cracking. So maybe I'll replace that with something better, or I think I still have about 20 feet of it left. Maybe just throw the same stuff on there and kind of kick the can down the road a little bit, just save some money. And then we got the important stuff like oil change, slash fluids. The fluids, we're just going to check the trans, we're going to check the transfer case, front and rear diff, the probably flush out the radiator and switch out the thermostat, just to get everything new since it hasn't been sitting for so long. So that's kind of the plan of action for the truck. Some of these things are going to be pretty easy, pretty simple. The big one I'm worried about is the top end investigation. Figure out what's wrong with it. To be honest with you, I've been putting this step off since 2023 when the truck went down. So I've always had an excuse, oh, I'm too busy at work, too busy doing this, too busy doing that, spending time with the family. But I'm really hoping we get in there and we do an injector kill test and we figure out that it's just an injector going down. So instead of $2,300 for a new head, we're only at $250 for an injector, and we can send it back to industrial for a tune-up, and then we'll kind of go down the path if we do have to send them back to get rebuilt. If we do want to switch the nozzles back to stock, but as of right now, let's just get this thing started. We'll do all this, and we'll make a decision off there. So our next video is going to be the charging system. I already have all the parts sitting on the bench right over here. So we'll get going on that as soon as possible. I think the next video will be charging system and compressor removal, and just cleaning up the inside of the engine bay, and then we'll move on to kind of the big one here, which might be a few part video, just trying to figure that out, and the intercooler pipes, fuel lines, and all that stuff could be its own video. So with that, I hope you guys are interested in watching this plan come together. One other thing that the head of the house, my wife, has put on me is she wants this done by September 2026. And that's not just the truck running, that is, she wants the camper shell on the truck, and she wants to go camping with it in September of 2026. Which, if you think this is a big list, which I think it might be a pretty big list, just moving that thing over is going to be pretty difficult. But again, let's push all that aside and not focus on the van at all. Let's pretend like it's not even here, and we'll get the truck going. We'll drive it, we'll do some burnouts in the alley, and then we'll focus on the van once we have a truck to be able to back under there. Alright, well, thanks for watching, guys. Again, TransRam ADV. My name's Trevor. Hopefully we'll see you again when we get this video all buttoned up and posted, and see you in a few weeks when we do the charging system and compressor removal.